eyes were green.
What do you think just happened in the scene you just watched? Well, it might not be quite what you're expecting. The woman who was just killed wasn't an ordinary human. She was a bioengineered replicant. Blade Runner 2049 tells the story of Officer KD6-3.7, or K for short, a replicant created to look, think, and feel like a human. These replicants are manufactured as adults and given fake childhood memories. They're biologically identical to humans, yet they're used as disposable labor because society doesn't see them as real humans. But everything changes when it's discovered that a replicant has given birth to a child. A revolutionary event that shakes the very foundations of this dystopian world. Today I'll explore why both Blade Runner 2049 and Omar Al-Akkad's What Strange Paradise create the perfect Marxist nightmare. From the very beginning, Blade Runner 2049 serves as a Marxist critique of social inequity, especially through its portrayal of Neander Wallace, the corporate overlord and main antagonist of the story. Wallace epitomizes the corrupt and exploitative behavior of the bourgeoisie, with cybernetic implants compensating for his natural blindness. Wallace ironically embodies the slogan of his company, "More human than human." His creations, the replicants, are becoming more human than he is. This stark contrast between Wallace's cold, inhuman nature and the replicants' growing humanity biases the viewer towards the proletariat, represented by the replicant protagonist K. Wallace's ruthlessness is fully displayed in the scene where he recreates Rachel, Deckard's former lover, to manipulate him. When Deckard rejects his offer, Wallace immediately has Rachel killed, treating her life as utterly expendable. A similar theme emerges in our course text, What Strange Paradise. Early in the story, the smugglers manipulate Amir into boarding a dilapidated ship and then extort money from his relative, Quiet Uncle, saying, "We're happy to pay his fare if you can't, but then he's not yours anymore, he's ours." These smugglers view the refugees not as people, but as commodities to exploit. Their greed and indifference become even clearer when we learn about the life vests they were selling to the passengers of the Calypso. Instead of offering protection, these overpriced vests turn out to be death traps disguised as flotation devices. A Coast Guard soldier runs into Vanna and shows them what they recovered from the shipwreck, saying, "Look at what they were wearing. You know what's inside of these things? Foam. They suck up water like a sponge." Just like Wallace, the smugglers are a stark representation of the cruel bourgeoisie, profiting off the lives of the vulnerable and viewing them as nothing more than expendable means for profit. Another critical theme in Blade Runner 2049 is the exploitation of a disposable workforce. Wallace's empire is built on the backs of slave replicants who are treated as second-class citizens and denied autonomy. Biologically, they're indistinguishable from humans, but society uses their replicant status to justify their oppression. Wallace's obsession with creating a replicant that can reproduce is driven by his need for an endless supply of labor.
I cannot breed them, so help me, I have tried. We need more replicants than can ever be assembled. Millions, so we can be trillions more.
When he discovers a replicant who can't reproduce, that he just created, he coldly dismisses her, saying that he needs millions of them. This chilling moment underscores how the replicants are dehumanized and valued only for their utility. This theme is echoed in What Strange Paradise. The smugglers rely on desperate refugees for their profit, but the island's society also depends on exploiting young Coast Guard soldiers. These soldiers are expected to blindly follow every order, as seen when one of them questions Colonel Kethros' relentless pursuit of the young boy and girl. Kethros silences him with a cold remark, saying, "You can either ask that question or wear that uniform, but you can't do both." The system tolerates zero disobedience. When Nicholas hides his interaction with Vanna and Amir, Kethros nearly crushes his jaw, then reaches out and rips off the patch stitched onto the chest of Nicholas's uniform. This moment highlights how easily the soldiers, like the replicants in Blade Runner, are discarded when they step out of line or are no longer of use. Both works expose the inhumanity of these systems that view individuals as replaceable tools rather than people. However, as we've observed, this approach is unsustainable from a Marxist perspective. Karl Marx argued that prolonged oppression would inevitably lead to rebellion. This belief is perpetuated in Blade Runner 2049, where we see the seeds of an uprising among the replicants. Early in the film, a replicant that Kay is hunting tells the protagonist that Kay is only content with his subservience to humans because
you've never seen a miracle.
This individual found hope in the birth of the replicant child, a revolutionary event that may suggest that replicants and humans aren't so different. Small acts of defiance began to snowball into a larger resistance. The film hints at an impending rebellion as replicants start to band together.
A revolution is coming. I want to free our people. If you want to be free, join us.
This reflects Marx's vision of the proletariats rising up to overthrow the bourgeoisie and dismantle systems built on exploitation, creating a more ideal and equitable world. Similar events occur in What Strange Paradise. For example, the rebellion begins with small acts of defiance, such as Ibrahim criticizing Muhammad's leadership. Her defiance results in her being struck, but it sets the tone for a larger disobedience. Over time, the passengers of the Calypso lose their fear of Muhammad, and his authority crumbles. Zalakid writes, "Muhammad had lost their superficial obedience. There was nothing left for the smuggler's apprentice to threaten." The situation became increasingly dire, and Muhammad's influence continued to decrease. The rebellion reached its peak when the passengers ignored Muhammad's orders to stay on the sinking ship. There was no one listening to Muhammad now. From among the mass of bodies, one man became the first to jump into the sea. This collapse of order mirrors the replicants' uprising in Blade Runner 2049, demonstrating the Marxist perspective that oppression, no matter how entrenched, is never sustainable. Ultimately, through the negative portrayal of the bourgeoisie, world building that revolves around exploitation, and a common proletariat uprising, Blade Runner 2049 and What Strange Paradise both reflect critical commentaries on a capitalist society, and reflect realities that a Marxist would avoid at all costs. Both works question the differences in individuals, and whether or not this variance entitles them to different rights. Moreover, the concept of the other is pervasive through both of the works as well, be it human or replicant, or natives versus migrants. In the end, we find that the blurred lines between these groups raises crucial questions we must ask ourselves. What is moral? Is it moral to profit off of other humans? And most importantly, what is a human?